Hi everyone, it's your Week 2 wake-up call for English 101. So the first thing you want to do every week, of course, is to check out that week's wake-up call. And since you're listening to me, obviously, that's what you're doing. Good for you. The second thing to do is check the course schedule. So even though I do tell you what's coming up in the week, always check the course schedule so that you can make sure you know what the due dates are and what's coming up in subsequent weeks. So just go to the course schedule tab on the home page. So this week you have chapter 2 and chapter 3 from your textbook, The Academic Writer. So I do want to say, if you haven't gotten the textbook yet, please do that as quickly as you can. I know it's easy to go on Amazon or some of the other online booksellers and just get a digital copy, and so that probably is your best bet at this point. You have a two-part discussion post. The first part is due on Wednesday, and the instructions are there under lesson 1.2, rhetorical reading and analysis. And then on Sunday, you have a peer response due. The instructions there are lesson 1.2, rhetorical reading and analysis, part 2. So you'll find all of your work under the modules tab on the home page. So there it shows week 2, unit 1. Remember, both of those are links. You can click on them. It will give you some instruction for what to do for the week and then give you the instructions for your discussion post. I've had a few people that are just a little bit unsure about where to find the due dates for things. So the due dates are located in several places. First of all, they're always on the course schedule, so you can check that out. They're also listed here on the week's module. So you'll see there on the second one, it says September 5th, that's when that's due, and it also tells you how many points it's worth. So let's just talk about this thing, rhetoric, for a while. You've heard that word probably, and a lot of people recognize it, but they really don't know what it means. It actually is pretty simple. It just means the art of using a medium. In the past, it meant mostly speaking or writing, but nowadays we've expanded that tremendously into the world of multimedia. But it's just using this medium to communicate with others, to communicate well and effectively and efficiently. And there are several purposes for this. We might instruct somebody or train them. We might persuade them, motivate them, entertain them. To persuade somebody means to change their thinking or beliefs. To motivate somebody means to change their actual actions or behaviors. So you can see that a good rhetorician or a good communicator really holds a tremendous amount of power. So all this stuff, really interestingly, goes way back to the ancient Greeks. So your textbook gave you a few names. You probably recognized Aristotle. So think about this. They would build these great big things that kind of look like, you've seen pictures of the Colosseum. Well, it was very much like that. They were actually called auditoriums. And all of the free citizens, which back then meant all of the Greek males, all the men, basically, who didn't hold jobs, they would just spend all day in the auditorium making speeches and listening to each other. That was kind of their occupation. And what this did was it really developed this art of how do you speak to a group of people and bring them around to your way of thinking. So out of this activity, we get things like debate, which maybe some of you have participated in before. So Aristotle is credited with coming up with this rhetorical triangle. And those are the actual Greek words that he used to describe it. So we have ethos, logos, and pathos. So let's start at the top with ethos. Ethos describes the speaker. That's you. You can see that that's the root of the word ethical. So the whole idea of ethos is how does the speaker or the writer position themselves in a way that they create a sense of credibility or believability. So back in the day of the Greeks, this was all about things like how dramatically you spoke and what kind of gestures you used and literally, how you stood. But for us, it's more complicated. It's the actual words we use, it's the images, it's all the aspects of how we communicate that convinces our listeners that we are a reliable, credible source of information and that they should pay attention to us. So let's go down to logos. You can see that that's the root of the word logic. And oftentimes we think of logos as communicating with facts and figures and statistics and data. So really irrefutable proof to support our argument or our claim. But it also simply encompasses the idea of what is this message that we are trying to communicate to people. And the third part of the triangle is pathos, or audience. So who are we communicating with? What are their needs? What are their expectations? And pathos actually comes from the Greek word, or as the root of the American word, or excuse me, English word, of pathetic, which at its root doesn't mean like, weird or, has kind of a negative connotation. But what it just really means is it's based in emotion. So an argument to pathos is one that communicates with somebody's feelings of sympathy or joy. Okay, and we know through long experience that those type of arguments are absolutely the most effective way to communicate with human beings. And wrapped around all of that is the context. What are we trying to accomplish? What is the purpose that we're actually working toward? What are the goals of this whole, effort that we're putting in? So you can see all of that works together very seamlessly to create this really powerful message or communication that we're creating. So to sum it up, good communicators, and this is all of you, remember, this isn't some abstract idea that we're just putting out there. This is each and every one of you. To be a good communicator, first of all, who are you communicating with? What is their age? What language do they speak? Where are they located? Occupation, education, like I said, needs and expectations. There's many, many more things that you might identify about your audience to tailor this communication specifically for them. Then you want to think about what is the purpose? What are the goals? What do you want this to accomplish? Do you want to sell somebody something? Do you want to persuade them to cut back on their carbon footprint, to use less plastic? Do you want them to vote for your preferred candidate? All kinds of purposes that we could have in mind when we're doing this whole thing. And then we have a vast array of tools at our disposal. First of all, we probably think of text. So what words, what format, what structure are we going to use to accomplish this purpose? But we also have things like, images, we have graphics, we have video, and even within the video, we have different ways to edit it with jump cuts or slow dissolves. All of those things create a rhetorical impact on the audience. Audio, animation, all of these things are available to us to communicate rhetorically. And then your textbook brought up this idea, one more Greek word for you, kairos, which just means how are you positioning this message in time? So is it especially timely and relevant for when you're trying to communicate, or is that not a particular consideration? Maybe it's timeless, but either way, kairos is something to think about. And before we jump any further, I just want to put out a few examples, and I really want to show you that you are, whether you know it or not, an absolute rhetorical being. So maybe this morning you went to your closet and you decided what you were going to wear. Or maybe you decided to stay in your PJs. Either way, you made a decision about what to clothe yourself with, and the decisions you've made, whether to put on a WSU hoodie or something else, most often is made to communicate something to somebody else. So think about, in a perfect world, what car would you drive? What kind of handbag would you carry? What color is your hair? all of those are strongly rhetorical choices because they communicate to the people that you're around, maybe aspects of your identity or something that you want them to know about yourself. So rhetoric is not something that we just, pick up when we need to use it and then set it aside. Literally, every word coming out of your mouth has some sort of rhetorical impact or consideration. So let's briefly go over this first project that you're working on. So you've already completed discussion number 1, which asked you to come up with 3 possible visuals. If you have not read the assignment, please go to the Assignments tab on the homepage and read through it so you have a good sense of what you're trying to accomplish. So discussion number 1, you have some visuals to choose from. This week, discussion number 2, you're going to narrow your choice to 1 visual, and then, using all of the information from your textbook, you're going to annotate and analyze your image. And I'm not even going to go into that at this point. So there are some great checklists, lists of questions for you to consider as you do that analysis. In subsequent weeks, you're going to write your rough draft and then submit it for feedback from both myself and your peers. You're going to get some peer review. And then you're going to edit and revise your final draft, and that is due on September 15th. So that should give you a good sense of how much time you have to do this. And lastly, we have office hours. Now, I have said that we will always have office hours on Tuesday. However, I got a message to show up for jury duty on Tuesday, which hasn't happened to me in like 20 years. So this week, we'll have office hours on Wednesday, that's September 1st, between 10 and 12. Now remember, these are optional. You don't have to. But if you have any question at all about this assignment, about any of the topics that we've been considering, please think about joining me on Zoom office hours. There's the link to enter the Zoom space, and there's the passcode. But remember, you can always make up an appointment for another conference, either through Zoom or we can chat, or however you want to get a hold of me. Okay, well, I hope that gives you a good sense of what's coming up this week, and have a wonderful week, and I'll be talking to you later.